Welcome out to another episode of It's All Been Truck Before. This time, the game. Yeah, we're playing the game. They're playing the game. Ashley Judd's playing the game. The game on It's All Been Truck Before. And it's no game. It's like that Bowie song. It's no game. And then we owe them money. But it's no game. Follow us on Facebook. It's All Been Trucked Before. It's spelled just like it sounds. Find us on there. Follow us. Like us. Dig us. And talk to us. We'll talk new Trek. Any new Trek developments. Old Trek developments. And, of course, all the developments on It's All Trucked Before. Just like this one. The game. It's All Been Trucked Before. That was a game.
Welcome out to another episode of It's All Been Trekked Before. Your favorite Ashley Judd fans are here.
This is Steven.
And not me.
And Jimmy-Jerome.
No, I have nothing against Ashley Judd. It's just that it's...
You just didn't recognize her.
Yeah. I know that she looked very familiar.
Even though she was just recently in another episode and we talked about her.
Wait, was she really?
Yes.
Oh, God, my memory is just awful anymore.
Except
Apparently.
she was played by a metaphor, so you might not have been able to recognize her.
She was played by a metaphor.
Yeah, like she could only appear as a metaphor, so it was hard to tell that it was actually Ashley Judd. Wasn't that the episode she was in?
She was in Darmok, yeah.
Yeah. Sorry,
Yep.
see, now I sound like a Temerian.
Wait, was she in makeup or something?
No, she was the same character, Ensign Robin Lefleur.
It
Oh,
was just a lot smaller.
It was a
Okay.
smaller part, yeah.
okay.
And this is her second and final
right, the thing of-
appearance.
Yeah.
Jimmy-Jerome, in case you didn't know that, obviously that was Keith.
Outed.
We talked about Ashley Judd's credits the last time, so I don't think we need to go back over them, but obviously she'll be a big part of our discussion here.
Yes.
Unfortunately, second and final appearance on Star Trek because she blew up on Sisters, and
Yeah.
that led to no more parts for her on Star Trek.
No.
Unfortunately, though, this was her first acting credit on IMDb with Star Trek. Darmok was, and her first on-screen kiss was in Star Trek as well. So, pretty big stuff for her, I guess. Hopefully, she remembers it fondly. First impressions of the game.
Well, oddly enough, my first note actually does have to do with the first impression. But I had to say before we get too far that I thought you were about to say like she blew up on the battle bridge or something. But sadly, she blew up on... Yeah. The title already, gets me excited for this kind of thing. I'm like, okay, what's this going to be? And my note had to be that there's no way that this expectation that's setting up is going to be something as great as the image is. It's like this big, oh my gosh, a mysterious game. What can it be? Or is it, is it political intrigue? What are they talking about? It is a literal game, which that should have been exciting for me. And it almost was.
I don't know. The game itself didn't look all that interesting.
Right. Now, there was one interesting thing I noted about that, at least interesting to me, is that even before they hit the opening credits, I realized that they touched on something that was way before its time. And this is what mobile gaming is.
Mm-hmm.
This is literally what they do is they calculate some of them are really just meaningless tasks. You're just moving around, clicking on something.
Yep.
You're just making this thing go to here. You're collecting coins or whatever.
For the dopamine.
Yeah.
rush,
And just
yeah.
going straight in and just, wow. And that's going to keep coming back here later as we get on, as we go on in the episode.
Yeah,
You're not wrong.
that's a good point, Pete, because it wasn't my first impression, but as the episode went on, I'm like, oh, seems really on the nose, but maybe it's more on the nose now than it was then, of the dangers of looking at screens and all that kind of stuff, which are legit, obviously.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they didn't have screens then. I mean, not
Right,
like screens.
But we had Atari, right, and that kind of stuff. And was Sega's around yet? There had to be something better than Atari by 91.
Yeah, there was Nintendo by 91.
Yeah, so
I mean, do you think that that's what they were poking at?
I feel like people were already railing against video games by then. And maybe I'm wrong, but in my mind, that's where it was going eventually. But at the beginning, I thought it was more, I naively hoped that it might be more of a lighthearted comedic episode. Instead, when it took the turn it did, and then it was essentially Invasion of the Body Snatchers.
Yeah.
That element of the story wasn't that captivating. I think and Jimmy already kind of took the hand last week and early when we started this. Wesley and Lefleur is the most engaging part of the episode. And then,
right.
Even them trying to solve the mystery is actually kind of interesting to me.
Mm-hmm.
And
it was very much a Wesley Lefleur episode, which is funny because neither one of them are lead characters.
Right. Yeah. Which, and made the other characters just robots or whatever, which that's the message. That's what's going to happen to all of us. We don't stop looking at screens. Or no. Yes. If we don't stop looking at screens, I thought I double negated it. But anyway,
I'm just glad they didn't waste Will Wheaton's return. Like they really used him.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it seemed like that was kind of the point, which I appreciated. It ended up being a vehicle for that, and maybe maybe some other things fell by the wayside because of that, or maybe it wasn't strong enough because of that. But it was nice to see the progress he had made. There was something more likable and natural, and engaging about him, I thought.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely,
and
I agree.
Yeah, my first impression was I really enjoyed this episode. Like, I know it's not the smartest or the cleverest, and I really didn't like the design of the game at all, but I liked the episode a lot because I enjoyed watching Will Wheaton and Ashley Judd. I thought they were terrific. They had good chemistry, and the story was interesting to me.
That part was fun, and it was very much, I guess we still do a lot of these movies, but I'm just thinking like The Firm and some of those other movies where it's one guy taking on the system, and he's everyone who's, which essentially those are invasions, but The Firm's invasion of the bystanders too. But,
this is what 3D modeling looked like back then. I mean, they weren't even anywhere close to having the same kind of immediacy that they were demonstrating as far as, well, let me get to the other part. So mobile gaming, there's a certain model they follow too, where you have to start. I remember playing games where they made you invite friends to play. Like during the early days of how these things were spreading, that you get an achievement for inviting so many friends, or this level is locked until you do this. Whether you want, so okay, so you throw in an invite or whatever. But the model I thought was interesting. It still seemed like ahead of its time to me.
I remember sending apologies to people, being like, "Ignore this request. I just had to send it so I could play."
Yeah, but it's funny how time flies. But this is like what 23 years ago. What was it?
This episode? This was almost 30 years ago.
Yeah. So mobile games were only to the extent that we have them now, 10, 15 years old.
Mm-hmm. It reminded me of, at first, at least early on, and maybe it's just because of the spinny thing and the way their eyes were trying to unfocus when they did it. It reminded me of those, the things like Mr. Pitt looked at on Seinfeld, the posters where you're supposed to relax your eyes and, I see it. It's a cruise ship, which I've never been able to do any of those.
Oh, really?
Yeah, never. When it first shoots into Riker's eyes, I'm like, what? And I'm like, maybe this isn't going to be a lot of fun, or maybe it is. But it was very trusting of him to let her do whatever she wanted to do.
I mean, he'd already been sleeping with her. He trusted her.
Do you think so? I mean,
Oh yeah.
Obviously, they were heading that direction, but I thought maybe that was part of the honeypot. There, it was like.
Oh no, that was after the first time. Otherwise, what they were doing would have led to more sex. He just needed a little more recovery time.
Yeah.
The game actually, at the very beginning, that opening scene on Ryza, it was kind of gross. I didn't really like her. I didn't like what they were doing, though. I guess that's a very stereotype thing, but that doesn't appeal to me. So I was just like, oh, Riker, come on, you're better than this.
That's surprising to me, I guess. I don't know.
I felt
what's surprising?
I thought her red hair looked great.
That you weren't into it. I mean,
that I wasn't into it.
Yeah.
No, I like a woman that's taking charge, not running around giggling. That woman was Atana Jal, played by Catherine Moffat, best known for the movie Spy Hard and the television shows Quincy, Emmy, Simon and Simon, and Dukes of Hazzard. She will eventually play, or she did a lot of voice acting, for like the 90s Iron Man and Fantastic Four. And then she will play another role in an episode of DS9 as well.
She's a very attractive lady. I'm looking at pictures of her from the 70s, some of her TV. And
not really my type, so maybe that was part of it too.
Also played the Scarlet Witch back in the 90s.
In the Iron Man animated, yeah.
Yeah, is that what you just said?
Yeah.
Huh.
I thought she was a decent actress. I liked the part overall. I just was not signed up for that beginning. I did wonder when she took Riker's comm badge and threw out the window, doesn't Starfleet demand he immediately retrieve it? Like, you're allowed to just throw a comm badge away?
Well, it seemed like that was our red flag moment, that something was that could have been up. A lot of trust. As soon as she brought out the headgear, I was like, okay, this is...
But see, she hadn't brought out the headgear yet at that point, and he still just laid down and didn't chase it. That bothered me a lot.
No, I'm saying as soon as they got to the point where she brought out the headgear, it seemed to confirm that there was probably a calculated motive behind throwing away the comm badge.
It suggests that Starfleet can't trust this horn dog. He's an easy mark. I mean, in the future, they got to keep an eye on it. They got to keep tabs on this guy.
Well, we already talked about this, but I immediately wrote down at the scene, is it triggering dopamine? Because, now that we know how these games work, it's very obvious what's going on.
Oh, that's something that hadn't occurred to me. Sorry.
Sorry, I was getting away. I was just going to finish my Riker point about him being a liability. Because at one point I wrote video games are the devil. Or are they saying promiscuity is the devil? Because that's how this whole thing starts. And then somebody else you trust or whatever gets you to use the game. And, whether they're using their feminine or masculine wiles, that's how they can talk you into it. So I thought, but to each their own vice, I guess, that will get them sucked in and forever trapped.
It's funny that I made a note later that we'll get to eventually that sort of relates to that and sort of the reverse. Yeah. So as I noted before, Riker must have reached the level where they make you invite friends, jokingly, but
we get to the ship. Picard mentions that Wesley is on a vacation and coming to visit, and Riker's first reaction is, let's put him to work. And I'm like, dude, he's taking a vacation. He's coming to visit his mom. Give him some time off.
And Riker just came from Riza.
Riza. Yeah. I guess you don't just go to the Enterprise D to relax, though.
Yeah.
That's like a state-of-the-art ship. Wesley's an engineering nerd, so he probably will enjoy jumping in.
Right. I thought that was kind of the way that they were kind of pitching that. I think Riker knew that this is something that he would enjoy anyway. This would be like a vacation for him. And we saw later that that's what his date turned into, essentially.
Yeah. Riker, as Ashley Judd first appeared on the screen, when Riker went engineering, he definitely stopped a minute and checked her out as he was walking in.
Because I thought he was going to go over and talk to her, and then he didn't. I'm like, okay.
But he noticed her, so if we didn't notice her, they were telling us notice her.
Geordi introduced her essentially, or pointed her out to Riker.
Mm-hmm.
And they did the thing where you could kind of tell that she was like, I rehearsed this line. I memorized this explanation to give right now as a thing.
It was very much this is the guest star of the week. Pay attention to her. Do you not remember she was in another episode? Let's go ahead and remind you who she is. It was very what they would have to do for exposition back before binging.
Although I did not recall the character until you reminded me separately.
Part of why she sticks to me is because she's played by Ashley Judd. Part of why she sticks to me is because that character has been explored further in the New Frontier novels. She's one of the lead characters of that adventure series.
That is always a fun thing, though, is that you know the other things like in the novels and so forth, or the other.
Her and Dr. Salar and Commander Shelby all serve on a ship, and it's like a series that's just in the novels. That's not on screen. It's really good. And we find out more of the Lefleur laws and everything.
Oh, nice.
I really enjoyed those, actually. And
the 102.
Yeah.
Although I wondered why Life Isn't Always Fair didn't pop up until number 46, especially given how her life must have sucked early. She didn't realize life wasn't fair until she got to number 46.
That's one of my mom's top 5 laws. Is life is
right. So saying it should have been like number 4 at the most.
Maybe
she was just really prolific, and it was just those first 45 or so, and like day one.
I'm gonna jump ahead here to Law 103 at the end, where I can't remember if it was Wesley says it, right? He says
friends, the whole thing.
Good friends can stand even light years apart, can't separate good friends. I'm like, whoa, good friends. Good friends.
That was his way of brushing her off after.
That's what I was like, is he like, is this like some kind of polyamory play? Is it just all right, this was fun, but I got some ladies back at the academy, which he probably does.
I don't care if he does. You don't do better than Ashley Judd, first of all.
Fair point.
But second of all, like, that rubbed me the wrong way when he called her a good friend, but then he immediately kissed her again. Right. So it's like, I guess it was more teasing than anything.
You guys good friends, but we're probably not making out when we get together.
Maybe he was just saying we're good friends with benefits is what he was trying to.
That might be.
Right. But I mean, I'm sure that there are other ways to think of it as far as the way the future would go, or Star Trek or whatever. But I mean, have we seen anybody use the "we're just friends" line within Star Trek? Or
I think Troy and Riker probably protesting that they're not together.
I think also, I thought it was appropriate in the sense that he would want that a normal person in that situation wouldn't want to push a label going out the door, in the sense of like, you were my lover or you were my girlfriend. Right. That was more like I'm playing it cool. We're friends. You know that.
I guess people. I know when I was in college, I don't think I ever called someone I was involved with a lover. Mm-hmm. I might call them that now, but even then it doesn't feel right.
But did you call them good friends?
No.
Yeah.
But she is a good friend. That's the thing. I mean, like, what else would it be?
He met her yesterday. How good a friend is she?
Well, they're already kissing, so.
I mean, they definitely banged at least 3 times in this episode, but
we don't
other
know
than that.
I'm trying to think of somebody in the Star Trek world so far, these 2 series, or even other series that I've seen, that refers to someone as a girlfriend or a boyfriend.
Right.
We'll get to husband, wife, or your paramour.
Do they even have? Yeah, I mean, we don't really have have they been exploring that sort of terminology? I mean, it doesn't come up like most.
No, because we didn't even meet Keiko till she was like getting married to O'Brien. So
right.
Do they even use fiance?
I don't remember, but we'll see some characters date in DS9, so it'll come.
All right. Well, I'll be looking to see if they use that term.
Yeah, keep it suppressed.
Is boyfriend or girlfriend a quaint term at this point? I don't know.
It would have.
I definitely know some people that won't use those. I know people that don't use those terms.
I feel like partner is more the term now.
Yeah. But I also feel like partner implies a more serious relationship than boyfriend or girlfriend does.
True.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
You don't call someone your partner after a month, generally.
No, unless it's a business partnership.
Whereas
even that would be too soon for like a.
Well, if you sign paperwork and you're an LLC, limited liability corporation, then sure, that's your partner. That's a completely different thing, and you shouldn't sleep with that person.
Well, speaking of futuristic,
it's inadvisable.
Speaking of futuristic techniques, eating and enjoying chocolate has really come a long way by the 24th century.
I got to tell you, that was that sequence had nothing to do with anything, did it?
No.
Yeah,
it was flavor text.
Yeah, it was.
I enjoyed it.
I did too. It was fun. And I kept wondering, when are they going to really show us was there white chocolate chips in there too?
Yes.
That's when they really had me. I'm one of those who likes white chocolate.
So we're up to the point where Wesley finally arrives, and O'Brien has to get Worf's permission for Wesley to stop by the senior briefing and say hi, which felt all kinds of awkward because primarily it felt awkward to me because they would have normally come to greet him. Somebody would have, obviously. And so the fact that they're in a briefing means there's something serious going on and he should leave them alone and let them do their jobs, right?
I hadn't thought of that.
Yeah.
That was my thought.
That was part of the whole ruse then, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, it was the ruse, but if they're busy, they'll say hi to you when they get a second. Yeah. Don't bother them at work.
I like the idea that Wesley, I have other own episodes, but that would have been a good one where he's like, all right, you know what? I shouldn't bother them. And they're just sitting there waiting for him and waiting. And he's in 10 forward or whatever.
I mean, they had to know he crashed their meeting, obviously, because that's the way they planned it.
Yeah. I did like his luggage. Again, I like the TNG future luggage. I love it.
Yeah.
I feel like I can probably get it now. But
was he in briefing status or before he left?
Was he in what status?
Sorry, briefing status, and to the extent that he would be involved in some of those meetings, though.
Well, yeah, I mean, he wasn't ever a senior officer, but there were meetings that they had let him sit in because he was relevant to whatever the mission was.
So I think that maybe if there were a serious enough problem, he could potentially have been helpful. So
yeah, but he was just going to say hi. He wasn't going to see if he could be helpful. Worf's pound cake, yet another moment of brilliant humor out of Worf. Yep. Then Wesley meets Lefleur, and man, that is a long handshake.
I was waiting for her to say something.
Yeah,
but I guess she did say it without saying it.
It was reciprocal.
Right. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Thank goodness it was reciprocal because this could have very easily been a Geordie episode of Creepy.
Yeah. as it was, and I hate to even notice things like that, but going back to that introduction or the screen introduction for our benefit, just the delivery between
Riker and Geordi.
Riker and Geordi. Just it was so close.
I can see that.
They kind of moved away before it got there, but it felt like they were both kind of and
I felt like they were trying to be a little bit sly about the advancement of the game, but it was pretty easy to track from Riker to Troy to Crusher. And then when they turned evil and assaulted Data, I was a little surprised.
Yeah. I didn't care for that.
No.
What can you expand on both of you, really? I mean, what do you mean as far as being surprised in a bad way, or why didn't you care for it?
For me, I didn't realize that they were going to figure it out that quickly, that they had to get him out of the picture, and then just him being sprawled all dead-eyed on the sickbay table.
Yeah, I just didn't like seeing Data in that position, especially from friends he trusts, especially because so few people know about his off switch, and Crusher took advantage of it.
Yeah. There is something that, I don't know if they adequately explained that, if we're jumping forward a bit. When you have zombie type body snatcher episodes, need to like, was there some other instruction hidden in the game?
Obviously,
I guess.
yeah.
Yeah, when you had the investigation, they saw that there was probably some nefarious purpose. They deduced at least that much. But I'm not sure how much strategy that someone who is that zonked out should be able to follow, because many of the other people on the ship, it seemed like there was a general directive to, hey, I got this thing. I love it. You should, I have to share this with you. You should do it. Try it now. Try mine. But, they weren't all necessarily advancing some sort of nefarious thing on, at least not seemingly knowingly.
About Crusher Lefleur's investigation or the Riker Geordi investigation?
The Crusher Lefleur investigation, as far as they uncovered what the device was doing.
Gotcha.
And we saw that the senior staff, the fact that they moved on Data like that indicated that they were able to think through the idea that they weren't going to be able to affect him in that way, and so they needed to get him out of the way for some other reason to eventually start moving the ship. So
along those same lines, I thought it wasn't going to work on Geordi, and I thought that was going to be one of the things
too.
in the episode. Because I'm still, should it work on Geordi?
Not if it goes in through the ocular. He doesn't have.
Right.
Well, I guess he gets ocular input of a sort, but it would have to be adapted and work very differently.
Right. Like I feel like it has to be not perfectly, but adapted for him. But.
Yes.
Yeah, I think we should talk to the Susan Sackett, Fred Bronson, and Brandon Braga, who pitched the story, and then Brandon Braga wrote the teleplay, and see what they were thinking.
I might have them in my contacts. Hang on.
Okay.
Nope, I don't. Sorry.
Susan Sackett is credited for additional crew on the motion picture, Star Trek 4, Star Trek 5. She was a production assistant, and all through Next Gen. She was Roddenberry's assistant for those 3 films, and a production assistant through Next Gen. She also is a written by credit for Menage a Troy, as well as this and story by for this episode. So she was probably real heavy on the chocolate aspect. And then Fred Bronson was a writer for Next Gen and for the animated series, the original. Let's see. He wrote The Counter Clock Incident.
Oh, wow. He should be removed from the set for that alone.
And then he also wrote Menage a Troy with Susan.
All right, so these 2 episodes
and one other person,
better.
Brown and Braga, but we've talked enough about Brown, and he's one of the big guys.
Well, the Menage a Troy.
I see, because there's 3 of them.
Yeah. God, that was awful. I'm sorry. So before we get too far, what was I going to say? There was something. Oh, right, the Geordi thing. Yeah, I really would have liked to have seen something like that. I mean, I'm sure we can assume off camera they figured something out, or that he would have been able to adapt something himself to want to try it or whatever else. But I would have liked to have seen something to explain how they hooked it up or whatever.
Like, part of me thinks, because my vision's terrible, uncorrected. I feel like if they use something similar to this, like, look here, I would not be looking where I'm supposed to be looking. I can't see anything. Or not very much, and it would fail, and all of a sudden, actually, that would have been a great alternate episode for 13-year-old me that somehow I become the hero because my vision's so terrible. That
it seemed like they only needed to get your input once, and then that could control you.
It seemed like it was like a Bluetooth pairing of some sort. It's like zap alignment, and it's just connected somehow. And
I guess they didn't go into a lot of detail about how it worked. I mean, I guess the device somehow through that they controlled it, but how did they get that many devices there? Did they explain that?
They said they were replicating it, or Beverly mentioned it once when she was trying to get Wesley to stay, which leads to one of my other notes later, which was that Wesley demonstrates that new romantic prospects are the best defense against a video game addiction.
This is true.
So that was the kryptonite.
That's very true. It's telling that you're right.
I've said many times the reason I missed a lot of TNG is because I got a girlfriend around this time. So I stopped sitting at home on Saturday nights watching TV.
And I was entranced to the screen because my ocular input, and younger.
The thing I had before that, though, also relates to the terminology thing we were talking about, which was, what kind of slang do they even have anymore? What do they call things? And that's what jumped into my head when Wesley was talking to Picard about the groundskeeper, I guess.
Who's
like, yes. What's AF? I guess apparently they don't know what AF means in the future anymore.
Well, Keith, when I say you're cool AF, you know what that means. I can't say on this podcast, but
that one woman I met. Yeah, that's AF.
So, related story, because this is what I thought of, because initially I thought the same thing, and then I was like, oh, it could mean this thing. So we were at Club Diversity the other night, and a couple of the folks got these seltzers or beers that were AF, and it was like lemon AF. It's like, and they thought, well, we're thinking it means, but actually it meant alcohol free.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah. So talk about your bait and switch there.
Lame. Lame.
I'm
drunk AF.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly. That's just not cool. Is Picard the one who went to the Sadie Hawkins dance? I'm trying to remember. Or was
it was Data.
Yeah. Data had gone to the academy, and Sadie Hawkins dances were awkward for him, or the idea of them at least were. I don't know if he actually went, but
Sadie Hawkins dance, I think it was the first dance I ever went to with a date.
Oh. Yeah. Isn't that the one where the girls ask the guys?
Yes.
Yeah.
We never had one of those.
I don't know if I've ever seen or had one of those at any school I've been to. I think I knew of them because of like Archie comics, and that's like pretty much it.
I've got some pictures around here somewhere from that actual dance, and everyone's in. And I grew up in a rural area, but everyone, all the posed pictures are me and my girlfriend or another group of people sitting on hay bales.
Oh my God!
Yeah, totally into it. But I don't know if they still do Sadie Hawkins. They probably don't. They just call it's 2021. Women ask guys out now.
I thought you were about to mention like Bobby socks and saddle shoes or something, which I feel like I've seen.
Poodle skirts.
Yeah, I think that was still kind of. I mean, it wasn't like.
It was very American Graffiti. No.
Yeah.
No,
it wasn't like unheard of when I was in elementary or around then.
People had straw hats on.
So are Wesley and Picard like best friends now?
I feel like it's an appropriate follow up. I mean, the things we've seen in the past, and even a callback to the Boothby thing, which I'd forgotten until I was like during the scene, I was like, oh yeah, he did kind of have that kind of going away. Check this out.
Kids. He's much more interested in talking to Wesley now
because he's not a kid anymore. Yeah.
Right.
Well, I feel like Wesley always saw him as a father, but Picard wasn't sure how to see Wesley. And now he's like, oh, officer. I can see him as a Starfleet officer. I get that reference.
Yeah, I can see that too. I mean,
but I knew Picard was a pod person when Crusher goes to talk to him.
Right.
And then I wrote down, even though we never saw who made Picard a pod person, it could have been Riker, because Riker's always probably trying to get Picard to do fun things like go to the holodeck and talk to Minuet. But you think it's probably Crusher, right? She came to his apartment late one night.
Well, no, we saw that.
Here's Jean-Luc. I brought something new to try.
We saw that she summoned Picard down to about the data mystery.
Oh, right.
And that was when some of them got to him eventually. So this also goes back to the thing we were wondering about before. It implied that Picard was being very strategic. The way that he was playing it off, like, oh yeah, I've heard of that thing. Yeah, I've heard of that game. Like trying to gauge Wesley's reaction to things, and Just
Well, see-
I'll look into that.
To me, that's even like a basic parasite. Like it's got that self-defense instinct that, if somebody's going to threaten your being, of course you're going to have the instinct to think through that.
So I don't remember exactly how the details worked out about what they were trying to do. Seemed like they were trying to deliver a ship to the Qatarians. Yeah,
they were going to deliver their ship.
Yeah.
And then the Qatarians were going to send different crew members to different star bases and starships to pass along the technology so they could eventually enslave all of Starfleet. To
make it go viral. Back to the thing about...
They just wore a mask over their eyes. They wouldn't spread any further.
Oh, my God.
That's why Geordi should have been fine.
No, it has the all the vents and slits in it. So
that's true.
Yeah, it's not cloth.
It's very porous.
So the thing about like all the other regular crew people who are just spreading it around and enjoying it themselves,
And we're back to my promiscuousness and
STDs. It makes me wonder if it was designed only to target certain senior staff to do like the higher level things.
See, I the way I figured was it basically enslaved you, and then they could call upon whoever they needed to do whatever needed to be done. So right now they're only calling on senior staff because that's what they need. But if they needed an engineer, then they'd call on the engineers and control them.
Well, but do you think that means they were controlling them externally somehow, sending messages?
I think so. I think so because we saw them in communication with Picard.
Right. Eventually.
Did it work when they didn't have the thingamajig on there?
Yeah, it seemed like it.
Yeah, it continued to work when they took it off. Because when they all
still playing the game when they didn't have it on.
No. It was getting them addicted to keep wanting to come back and get the pleasure hit. But once that was there, there's the thing.
It wasn't fully explained.
I don't know if they're the same as when they put creatures or buddies in Wrath of Khan.
But it wasn't a hive mind situation,
right?
Or else Wesley and Lefleur would have been caught a lot easier.
And that's a good distinction from Invasion of the Body Snatchers, which was
hive mind.
Well, at least the 77 version, they were connected.
So once we found out exactly what that thing was doing, that made me see her throwing away Riker's comm badge a lot more sinisterly.
Yeah.
But I guess that as soon as she brought up the device, that there's got to be a connection here. Something's going to happen. It seemed.
She stood by the window. I was like, that thing's going out the window.
I couldn't even. What was there like even open space? It looked like there's a lattice over the whole thing. Like, where did it even go?
Rise is perfectly controlled environmentally and everything, so they can get rid of mosquitoes.
But I mean, how did the comm badge get out? Where did it go exactly?
She just threw it out the window.
Yeah.
But it looked like the window was screened. That's why I was.
No, it wasn't screened. It was just there were dividers, but it wasn't screened.
Yeah.
So while we're talking about the Qatarians, one of my last two notes was that, and maybe this fits in with fashion, but the makeup for the face, which I eventually noticed by the end, seemed distractingly vulvar.
Mm-hmm.
It seemed like an odd choice. Like, how did that get through?
See, that's not a bad call because I'm concerned we're going to be an explicit episode at this point, but I thought it looked like a butt.
Oh,
which is still, I mean, they're in that same general area.
All right. Now I need to bring up a picture here on the background, but it's just like.
Well, when she's with Riker, she has all that hair around it. Then later she has it pulled back. So it's more like, this is the real me, the alien me, or whatever kind of thing.
Oh, yeah. In the first scene, the cleft in the forehead. They weren't really focusing on her face. It just looked sort of like a butt on the forehead. Mm-hmm. But the actual, there are also these two diamond shapes.
It does remind me of Tom Tuttle's kid is it Tom Tuttle? Tom Tucker on Family Guy. His
God,
condition. Yeah. Maybe they got this from this. We know Seth MacFarlane's a big TNG fan.
So Lefleur and Wesley fall very quick. That's such a fun nerd date. I enjoyed that. And then like almost immediately they're like holding hands every time we see them on screen together. Which
I thought the first time was like a comfort thing, but it was also that thing where like, again, I'm thinking they're 18, 19, but I don't know how.
So Wesley went to college a little late, remember? Because he tried to get in and whatever. So he's probably like 19 or 20. She's already graduated, so she's probably like 23.
Oh, you're right.
She's a little bit older. He's still a college student. He's going after the. Well, he wasn't going after. It was very mutual, but yeah.
All right, Stephen. If you look at the picture now.
Oh yeah, it's clear.
That is
a butt with a vagina in the middle. I see it.
Yeah, it still looks like what I described.
Yeah, I
missed the other part.
Yeah, there's.
That's the woman bent over from behind. Yes.
Yeah, I would. Yeah, I'm not going to get any more graphic than that.
Well, not quite, because it's like if you. Yeah. Sure. Anyway.
Yeah. Well, a rose by any other name.
It's inverted for the thing.
Yeah, I thought the first time they grabbed hands, the idea was, well, we'll blend in or whatever they were trying to do, but it was also like, I know I pulled the move. Probably not these days as much, but when I was younger, I'm like, here's an excuse to hold a girl's hand, not in a. It was somebody I was obviously on a date with or whatever, some kind of date with.
Yes, so some sort of crisis would come up on the date, like you're being chased,
sure.
or that is very, that is CHASED, not CHASTE, chased. But
I remember actually my first wife, our first date. Our hands just happened to hit each other. And she's like, are you trying to hold my hand? So she might have actually been pulling the same move on me. Yeah. But either way, it led to the desired result for both of us.
Did she sound that angry or indignant?
No, she was she was, this was our first date. So we.
Are you trying to hold my hand?
She made it in a jokey way. That was kind of her move. And my move was like, no, but I am now. So while we're on this, first dinner date fashion. What did we think about Ashley Judd's hair? Was that a 90s-ish hair thing?
I'm not sure, but I liked it.
Yeah. I mean, she's Ashley Judd, so she's going to look good.
Wesley had a new haircut as well, if you noticed.
He did. I liked his hair grown out.
Yeah.
I didn't like his tuck shirt, but that's a personal thing. I'm not a tuck shirt guy.
Did you like his reverse uniform colors?
I did. Yeah, that I did.
That's going to become the normal here for everybody in a couple of years. They're all going to wear that reverse color.
In the scene where he's running for everyone, he looked really, and I guess Will Wheaton's probably in the whole run of the series, but he looked really thinner than before to me. So I feel like he's been skin and bones as long as we've seen him. He's not wearing those big bulky sweaters anymore. Maybe that's the difference. That's what that's the thing.
He's dressing more fashionably. Did you like Robin Lefleur's red outfit?
Yes, that I did. Yes, I did. Yeah, that's. I skipped to the hair because I wasn't sure how I felt about that, but the outfit was great.
Mm-hmm.
I have one more note on that. Well, I have a couple, but I'll just go to this one. Later, he gets her on his bed and heavy breathing when they're pretending like they're using the.
Yes, that was a great fake out.
That's a pretty good score there, Wesley. Well done.
That was a good fake out, but you have to wonder what else were they doing on that bed earlier in the day. I swear they slept together in this episode.
Well, we talked about this going back to TNG. Do people ever get under the covers?
You don't need to. You can set the temperature for whatever you want it to be.
That must be it. Yeah, and
I couldn't. I don't know.
They looked a bit like teenagers hanging out on the bed, though.
They did.
They looked younger than they were.
Yeah, that's why I kept thinking of them that way.
Well, before we move on, the idea of sleeping above the covers.
4 feet above the covers.
Damn it! No, I can't imagine having to do that. It's just like if you were tired enough, you could do it. Tired enough, if you could do it, but it's just
sleeping above the covers. I have to all the time because my wife and I have different body temperatures.
What, really?
Yes.
Yeah.
Huh. What feels comfortable to me would be too cold for her, and what's comfortable for her is too hot for me.
Sleep number bed doesn't fix that.
No. I enjoyed the Nurse Agawa cameo.
Yes.
That was fun.
I knew she was going to be in it at the big top because I saw
her name,
Yakusade.
Yeah.
But then the way she ended up in there, I thought was really cool.
This feels very classic Wesley episode, Wesley saving the ship. It's something they've done before. They brought him back. And yes, it's a more mature version of it, but it's still that same formula.
When they finally get Wesley and he's trying to climb through that grate, and then they have him in the chair and they're forcing his eyes open. Mm-hmm. The eyes open was very Clockwork Orange, even the way the thing shot in. And then him being pulled down from the grate, I think is an actual shot from the first Body Snatchers. And also in another homage to it and a Seinfeld reference, Kramer, the episode where he doesn't wear not the Red Band episode. It's where he the kids that he's beating up in karate finally catch up to him. He tries to escape by climbing up a ladder, and they pull him down off. But
I enjoyed the whole chase. I thought it was a really clever. We got to see what happens when a genius is going up against other people that really know the ship.
Yeah.
And some of the ins and outs.
Yeah, I did enjoy that, and it was good action. And like I said earlier, it's kind of like what a lot of '90s movies were in my mind when I think back, like Tom Cruise and The Firm and things like that, where it's like one guy running from the system, including a movie called The Game with Michael Douglas. I think it was a Oliver Stone movie, and Sean Penn, maybe.
Yeah, but you couldn't just flat out run because that's not how the Enterprise works.
Exactly. So
I really appreciated the.
And we've had a lot of in the vent kind of Jeffrey Tubes kind of stuff the last couple weeks.
I really liked the before we move on. I liked just that bit with Worf and Riker catching up to him and cornering him. Just that menacing look on the face, like gotcha. And it's just that I felt like the tension there, and it's like actual fear. Like, wow, what would you being physically outpowered, overpowered in that situation? Just
you made me think of something else, Keith. When Worf's coming at him and trying to hold the door open, and Wesley's trying to close it, I feel like they were going to crush Worf's hands, and Wesley, he punches something else in and it goes the other way.
Oh.
It's not obvious, but it was very like, oh, it's closing. Wesley goes back to the door panel and boop, 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 boop. And then Worf's suddenly able to open them.
Interesting.
So I feel like he was like, no, I'm not going to crush his hands because I know it's not him and I can't have this happen. I'll figure out something else out. So I thought that was cool. And to your point, Jimmy, about it being a Wesley episode, I was like, how are they getting out of this? I completely forgot about the data. The data was.
So I wrote down, I had when he's trapped on the bridge, I was like, I have no idea how they're gonna resolve this. And then here comes Data Ex Machina.
That's what I wrote down. I wrote down exactly Data Ex Machina.
So did I. I thought the same thing.
And then I was like, oh yeah, Wesley was working with him. They did lay the groundwork for that.
Yeah,
but
they did. Yeah. Which I think again speaks to some of the strength of the episode that we forgot about that because there's a lot of other stuff going on.
That's fun. There are just some episodes of some shows where that happens, and I love it when they know how to juggle something just enough. And I see this happening in comedies more often too, where they know how to space the joke out just enough for you to sort of forget about it and then do the callback, so it hits just at that right time.
Yeah,
it was like that.
Yeah, it was good. And the kiss before Wesley calls her a good friend as he's getting ready to leave, I was like, that's some kiss. And then he promises to write, and I was like, oh, okay.
We talked about this before. You'll write? What do you mean you'll write?
A video log or something, or
that's what I think.
I don't know.
It sounded like he was gonna write, which even in the 90s, writing was dead, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Writers should just go away because it's done.
Is this Wesley's best crush / relationship?
Yes.
Yeah, I agree. Not just because it's Ashley Judd. It's more developed.
Yes.
He's not some kind of weird other kind of creature or...
Yeah.
And it's fully mutual. They both know what's going on. They're both fully on board for it.
Yeah.
We're on the same ship, so yeah.
Oh, yeah, and she even knew a bunch of things about him.
She did. Well, he's got a reputation as the wonder that saved the ship. This episode was directed by Corey Allen, who he directed 5 episodes of Next Gen, and the last one he did was Final Mission, which was Wesley's final episode as a main character.
Makes sense.
Wesley has 3 episodes left of the series, and the 1 episode Corey has left to direct is Wesley's final episode. So he must be like a go-to director for Wesley. He will do 4 DS9 episodes as well, but he died in 2010 at the age of 75. He's from Cleveland, Ohio, though.
I was about to say he must be the wonderkind of directors, but I guess it doesn't really make sense here.
Yeah, so Wesley will be in 1 more episode this season, not in season 6 at all, and then make 2 appearances in season 7, the final season. So we get 3 more Wesleys. My alternate episode is similar to what we talked at the beginning, that this was like Candy Crush or Angry Birds that they got addicted to, which I'd love to see the Orville be like, look, we found this old game from the aughts, and then they all get addicted to it. It'd be great.
My alternate, I had 2. One initially was I wanted to see Wesley at the Academy because they talked about it. They told us, but they didn't show us. So I would love to see it shown.
We will see him at the Academy in one of his upcoming episodes.
Cool. And then the other one, it's shifted over, which is it was very Hardy Boy Nancy Drew, them solving the case initially, like, oh, hey, you know, just being high school-ishy kind of relationship and kids or whatever.
That's fun, though.
Yeah,
well,
yeah, exactly.
also,
It's part of the appeal. And I read a lot of Hardy Boys Nancy Drew when I was young, too. So
it also reminded me of one of the things I loved in Lower Decks first season, which I just refinished. God, Tandy and the cyborg guy.
Rutherford.
Rutherford. When they would hang out and geek out over problems like that or little science things and just.
And yet they don't date. Mm-hmm. But then she's not Ashley Judd.
Right.
So if she was Ashley Judd.
She's Orion, but not that kind of Orion. It's a stereotype.
Yeah, exactly. Who is your annoyance?
Riker's date.
Riker's date, the main woman, the main antagonist.
Threw my cell phone out a 5-story window.
So even before you knew she was evil, you were done with her. Yeah,
I had a hunch, but I was still hopeful that the game was going to be something more fun or not as ominous or whatever. So
I'm going to say Riker. How dare he let that be taken advantage of, and so thoroughly.
That's fair.
Oh man, I don't know. That's
Riker's libido is infamous, but it never interferes with his job generally.
Yeah, exactly. He's a liability.
Yeah.
He must be destroyed.
This is actually too difficult. I mean, you both make very good points. It would have to be one of them.
Doesn't have to be.
Yeah.
I would probably say Riker in this situation.
Okay. How annoying was Wesley? Scale of 1 to 10. We haven't done that in a while.
Oh yeah. I started off thinking I was going to give him like a 4 or 5, but I ended up at a 1. Yeah, he was delightful.
Totally agree. 1 for me.
Yeah.
Is that the first? No, this is not the first time he's got a 1 across the board. He's had several 1s before. I
was like at a 1.1. There was something. I can't remember exactly what it was, but.
Yeah. Well, that still rounds out to a 1. Yeah. I'm not playing that game, Gabe.
But you have to. It hits your dopamine just right. If you just tried it.
That does not hit my dopamine.
It's not a new game.
Who are you going to have a drink with?
Lefleur. Spoiler. I know that's not a surprise. What is Lefleur?
Well, I was the only one that picked her last time.
In my brain, it's 23-year-old me having a drink with 22-year-old or whatever Ashley Judd. But yeah.
I mean, in my brain, it's me at any age having a drink with Ashley Judd at any age.
That's very true.
But also the character of Robin Lefleur. I liked her. She was intelligent. She was quick. She was clever. She was pretty. She was the whole package.
Mm-hmm.
And she wasn't afraid to go after what she wanted. Yeah. She was confident.
Yeah.
So both her and Ashley Judd just to hear about her awesome career and everything she's done.
I would have liked when the reveal happens that they've got her under, the game's got her, that they were making out or something where it was more of like she's actually trying to put rather than
her.
You think she's reaching for a condom already? You think she's reaching for a condom, but she comes back with the headset?
Yeah, I guess this is me just being like, well, this should have been just like in Invasion of the Body Snatchers, where the person's like, oh, thank God you're here, which he kind of did, but he was kind of far away from her.
Yeah,
and then a freak out. But yeah,
Keith, your drink.
Lefleur seems like the obvious choice, but I'm almost, even for the sake of contrarianism, tempted to go for Itana, the Qatarian.
Why?
I'm not. It's something. I don't know.
I don't get that, but you can have her if you want. Oh, what I wrote down for Lefleur was I'd ask her for a drink, but she'd want dinner.
Sorry, that joke occurred to me during the episode.
Yeah, that was good.
It's funny.
Because I had the same reaction, like coffee. Okay.
Coffee, Stephen.
Yeah.
Coffee.
Well, see, I didn't get it before. When you were saying coffee, you really meant, So I should have come up, the whole. Do you remember the answering machine episode of Seinfeld?
Yeah. Yep.
George and the whole.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay, ranking the episode. Let's start with better, worse than disaster.
But before we even say that, this is one of the funny things I have to note is when I was looking for pictures, for the background. Mm-hmm. This one of the captions, like somebody had this framed with "worst of Trek."
Oh.
So yeah, I was like, I can see why somebody might dislike it. It's just I don't know.
I mean,
They're wrong.
I'll say you guys talked me in. This conversation made me realize I liked it a lot more than I did.
Yeah.
I didn't like that it ended up being what I thought it was going to. What
Body snatcher as opposed to something else. Yeah.
I still enjoyed it a lot. So, but yeah.
I'm kind of there. I think I went with that on that sort of roller coaster where I was like starting off like, okay, what's this going to do? I really like the idea of this. It's like, well, body snatcher, but still they did some other things with it too. And yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Before we started, I would have definitely said I like Disaster more, but now I'm like, I don't know. I could be swayed either way.
I like this one more.
Yeah.
It had fewer weak moments. Disaster had a lot of good moments. This one had fewer weak moments.
Yeah. I don't dislike it enough to disagree. So yeah.
You
better or worse than Ensign Rowe?
Yeah.
Whoa, it kind of have to be worse, right? I mean, it's I don't know.
I think it's better than Ensign Rowe.
Really?
Yeah. I do. Again, I think it was just a tighter story, and the two leads were so charismatic and compelling. Ensign Rowe was good. It set up some things with politics and stuff, and it introduced us to an interesting character. But I thought this one was better, was very tight and fun.
Keith, I'm gonna let you cast your vote first.
Oh man!
Don't put you on.
But I would not argue heavily if you both decide to go under. I feel like they're both good episodes. I'm not.
Yeah, I'm just surprised we didn't do the sex tape joke, but
for Disaster, you mean?
For your description of that wow, actually got me there.
Good.
This is where it's tough for me because I feel like the whole Bajordan thing was just it's got the weight of the momentousness of it.
But they didn't quite get the Bajorans right, I don't think.
True.
But if you're asking me who's the better character, Lefleur or Rowe, that's rough.
Right, because
that's rough.
That's kind of what it is too.
Yeah, I don't think necessarily which of the two is the better character necessitates which is the two is the better episode, but you could make that argument. I think I do prefer Rowe as a character slightly, but just slightly.
I think you're on the right track because of the fun factor. I mean, the idea of wanting to watch this again at some point or seeing little things. It's just at the end, rewatching.
I just came away thinking you're bringing Wesley back. There's a million ways to screw it up, and you found the way to do it right.
Also a good point.
My opinion.
It's going to be up to Steven now. I'm split either way.
Okay. I think he wanted to go below. And like I said, I like them both enough. I'm not going to throw a fit.
I can't believe that I mean, I shouldn't be that surprised, but we both wrote down the Data Ex Machina.
Great minds.
Yeah.
Every time somebody says great minds, I like to say mediocre minds think alike too. So.
Machine of the data.
This is one where, like, in 15 weeks, I'm going to be like, why did we do that?
Yeah.
I think Ensign Rowe was better.
Okay.
I'm going to go with that.
I think we've had 6 good episodes so far this season out of 6.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like I said, this is what this, and sometimes this happens with us. Yeah, this was definitely one where I was like going in, like, but yeah, I definitely enjoyed it. This is one I'd rewatch. It's got rewatchability. One way to help keep the focus on Wesley is to make everyone else a zombie.
True. Next week, Unification 1. This was the first 2-parter where the first part actually has the 1 in the title, because these other ones, now that's IMDb. I'd have to look and see if that's the official title. But these other ones have just had part 2, but part 1 wasn't listed. This is Unification 1. And the description is Picard and Data follow Spock into Romulan space on a dangerous mission.
So they just did not even care about giving away it was a 2-parter. It was more like, hey guys, just relax. This is going to be, we're going to get
And the guest star
other
list.
ones were season enders that they didn't want to let you know until the very end.
The guest star list on this episode, Leonard Nimoy, of course. Mark Leonard, of course. Joanna Miles returns as Perrin, his wife. We have Stephen Root guest starring.
Wow.
Daniel Roebuck. And I don't see listed here, but Nice Crosby's in at least part 2. I don't know if she's in part 1. So we got lots of good. It's a good Vulcan Romulan story with classic characters and also Stephen Root, who I love. Cool. So Oh, and Eric Avari's in this episode as well. He's a good actor. He's probably, if you didn't recognize the name, if you saw his face, you'd be like, oh yeah, I recognize him.
So along the lines of what Steven just asked about it being a season ender, it just occurred to me that it could have also been like a special 2-hour episode or something, which they split up for later syndication.
Let me look. Part 1 aired November 2nd, 1991, and Part 2 aired November 9th.
Nope, guess not.
And they're not called Part 1 and Part 2. They're called Unification 1 and Unification 2, which is interesting.
Artistic choice. 1 and 2, they're unifying.
And Discovery this season did Unification 3. They really did. They had an episode titled Unification 3. And there's a good reason for why the connection. So you'll get a Unification 3 in about 10 years, 15 years when we get to it. But anyway.
We can survive that long.
Yeah, I definitely see a picture of Denise Crosby in the Part 2 on IMDb. I don't see him Part 1.
It just always makes me think about my mortality for some reason.
Unification?
Well, until then, live long.
And go outside and play a game. Stop looking at screens. But if you go outside, take us with you. We're portable.
And, if you want to watch us on YouTube outside, that's fine too. That's not the same thing.
That too. That's completely different.
Yeah.
And
hold on to your badge. Don't let your communicator just...
Don't let somebody throw your cell phone away.
I'm shooting the dopamine now. Now we can control the audience. What do you want them to do?
Steal a ship? I don't know.
I was just going to say tune in next week, but...
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
They'll probably do us more good
right
now.
Friends, they got to listen to this, and then once they put the headphones on, they're like, this is amazing. Yeah, that's what we need.
This is mediocre now.
I'll take it.
It's more realistic.
It's All Been Done presents
Who's Got the Time?